Why, hello. Welcome back to Skylines 2. My name is Dava, and today we're doing a little bit of a tutorial. Now, I want to teach you, well, before we should start this, I've been getting little comments and things like that about how to use a certain mod, and that one mod is Move It. I want to go over a very small brief introduction to how to use Move It. I wanted to get into a small little portion of how we're going to begin to use Move It as a beginner's guide, but also the more advanced stuff later down. And for beginning, we're going to start with this little intersection here made in a little custom map here. And then for later, we will get into the City of Days port to show you something more tricky when it comes to using Move It and just the vanilla aspects of the game. So for starters, we have a custom interchange here that was pre-built in the map, and I personally don't like it. It's a bit too high, the clearances are kind of drastic, and the bridge just kind of slopes kind of horrendously. So we're going to use Move It to at least fix this to get it to something that we would want it to become. So our first basics of Move It. You want to click the little Move It mod down here, or if you're using keybinds, you have the M key or Shift M to activate Move It. We have 3 different modes of Move It. Our first one is our single point node. We can click each node of the road, or track, or trail, or any kind of path. We can with Move It. Next is the marquee mode. I try to stay away from this mode mostly because it does tend to crash your game when you can marquee well, I shouldn't say a lot of things at once and try to move it all at the same time. That'll sometimes crash your game. And manipulation mode, which we will get into later. This mode allows you to just quite literally manipulate the road. I wouldn't say node, but yes, node, but also the road or track entirely. So to begin, let's go over what we want to fix here. Now, another thing people are wondering, how do you get roads to go smoother? The answer to that is always just Move It. When using Move It, you want to make sure your slopes are quite even. So here, as I said before, you see how these 2 points were quite high? Let's lower them down and pause the game right here to see this bus's standard here. Let's lower it down to where the bus is at least at an appropriate height, where at least a truck should be able to fit between here, and this should be an appropriate height. And with that being the case here, we see... Let's see if that truck fits before I continue. Ever so slightly, it fits, but this is the tallest vehicle, I believe, in the game that drives on the road anyway. Let's keep it at that height. We want to make sure that everything is at an appropriate height, but also make sure our slopes are quite even, and they actually make sense here. As you can see here, it starts off flat, it goes up pretty drastic, but at the same time, it's quite even for now. And alongside this one as well, but however, this one will be the manipulation mode, which we will get into just now. We want to also move this road down as well, and these are just the simple basics of Move It. You can click, hold, drag, move them around. You will see sometimes where Move It will bug, like this is an example of Move It bugging. I want to move the node, but the road curves with it. I'm not sure if that's a something that can be fixed with the modding creator, but that will be a thing for the future to be fixed. So let's get this to slope at least a little bit more evenly. And just like that, we have a flowing curve around here. It may not be as clean as I'd want it to be. I'd rather have a little bit more space when it comes to making things like this, but it's one technique that we can use. The next step. This is where we're going to use manipulation mode. You see how the end pieces here have their roads their lines intersecting with each other? We're going to want to try to pull these out with manipulation mode. So to access manipulation mode, you can also click this toggle here, but the easiest method is to hold Alt. So when in Move It, you can hold Alt to turn the node purple, and you then click the road to access manipulation mode. From there, you have the ability to select these 4 different nodes within the 2 nodes. Hold Alt to keep that node straight up to a point. Bring it further, and you may break it. Just make sure it's at a specific point. Just to make it locked. So, fundamental lesson here. Nodes have a specific property when dragged. Let's make a new road here, for example. There's a limit to the node to where you want to make the Alt tool, or I should say, to where the Alt tool can snap, I should say. In some cases, it'll be right where it stops. It'll be a little bit beyond, but anywhere further than that, it might disassemble itself. Usually, to prevent this from happening, you would want to pull the node out further and further on both ends. You see here how it got loose? You want to keep pulling it out further, pull the next one back, Make sure they don't overlap. Keep that in mind. If they overlap, the nodes will become a little bit janky. So keep pulling them out further and further until it locks again. Pull this back, pull it out until it locks again, and you just want to keep repeating that process at the same time and keep pulling this out until it locks. You want to make sure that there's a limit between your nodes. Just keep in mind, when pulling out a node, you'll see the name of the road change. It'll start to expand sometimes. And here it's actually not doing it as... Oh, there we go. Once you pull out the original node on the end, you will see the name of the road stretch. And it may be hard to manage sometimes, but it will get a little bit funky. Again, you want to keep pulling the node out, pulling the nodes all the way across until it locks again into one straight position. You can have it loose if you want to, but doing that will make it a bit trickier, and we will get into that later. But for now, to get back into here, we have our two manipulated roads here, our highway and our little road to merge, or our little exit ramp. By holding Alt here, it doesn't really want to do anything much except to lock onto this road here. So in this case, you do not want to hold Alt. You want to just move it slightly to your feeling here and try to at least make it merge into something that would make a little bit more sense than normal. And if you wanted to make it look a bit more clean, like the road doesn't turn so abruptly sharp, grab the other end of the exit ramp and pull this one out. And then bring this one all the way in, while also keeping the node as long as possible. Fair warning though, when pulling nodes out like this, sometimes you will see the road warp. In this case, it's not warping, but let me see if I can show you another time when you can get a road to warp. Let's try to use the same highway. Let's use this point, for example. If you pull the nodes out of their bounds, you will see that the roads will start to stretch, which is oftentimes a good thing. You sometimes want the road to stretch as far and wide. However, when pulling them too far, the road itself may warp. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. In this case, it will not warp as... well, it's a good thing if it doesn't warp. This is a kind of nice highway that you want. You want a nice little ease into the road ends. Other cases, you won't get that. Let me see if I can try to manipulate a road for it to do that, but it doesn't seem like that'll be the case around these two here. It'll happen eventually. I'll show you just when it gets to that point. But let's continue our node manipulation here. This portion up here, you want to make sure the node is in its own respected lane. So pull, this is your host node, the beginning node. Pull this in its own lane, and this is the node that will follow behind. You want to make it at least curve to a position where you would want it to curve to. But you see here, how it makes it almost 90 degree. This is where you want to pull this node back and pull this one out just a little bit further. You want to make them line up to feel not so restricted, I should say. And just like that, we have a nice even curve, and the lane is in its own respective place. Now, another method you can do for clearance on a road, if you want to, select your bridges, or just one bridge in total. Grab your two middle nodes and hold shift. This allows you to click multiple nodes at the same time without the marquee tool, especially in manipulation mode. This will be very handy. And just bring these points up. You can get a nice arch in the bridge if you ever so wanted to. Also giving more space for cars to pass below. Just know that when you arch a bridge too much, there will be a time where it looks a little bit awkward between here. And when it does, you can always raise this portion up and pull this portion of the road down. You will get a very hilly effect here when you do this, but just keep that in mind. More restrictive for trucks and less for cars on the realistic standpoint. And again, you want to do the same thing here. Just pull these up. And again, if you can make it longer if you want to. Just pull these a bit farther than where you would think you would have to. And if they don't match up, oftentimes you have to pull the node out further and manipulate the other node behind it as well until it matches up. That's a simple method of move it here. We could then go on to more of the advanced things, and for that I will actually meet you in the city of Daysport. There's something that I want to attempt to do in that city, so I'll be right back. So here we are in the city of Daysport. We're going to work in this area right here. Now we're going to focus on these two tracks right here. We have a freight and a commuter rail track. I want to show you what it's like to build with move it with these tracks. I tend to use move it the most with tracks because the way that the game really doesn't really justify the road placement correctly. What I mean by that is, I call it the Jello effect. When placing roads next to each other, the game doesn't really like that per se. Sometimes it'll stick, sometimes it'll be a bit weird where the road will try to stick to another road. And trains are a big contender to that. So for example here, say you want to place a track next to a track, but oftentimes the train will want to stick to it no matter how close you get oftentimes, and then trying to get a track as close as possible without especially having to go through the catenaries, it just becomes tedious. You can see here, it just wants to connect to it against its will. That's where you just move it to get the tracks to be as close as possible. Now, what we want to do here is make these two tracks merge at a point. We're going to make this try to merge as smooth, actually, just for example, we're going to make this run as horribly as possible. Make this kind of turn into here without really having any form of resilience. Now, again, do the same thing as we said before. We want to pull the nodes out to at least meet a specific point, or to at least make this thing flatten out or edge out to be a little bit more smoother. Now you see here that I actually have two nodes next door. You really want to envision what you do before you build it, or I guess while you're building it at the same time, because you can see here, these nodes are very close. I will not have enough space to pull these nodes a bit closer to make it lean out just a little bit more. So in this case, what we want to do here, let me press Control Z to undo. And I forgot, sometimes undoing will crash your game as well. I'll be right back with you. And we're back from the crash. Sorry about that. Yes, try not to use the undo command too much, especially when you're in manipulation mode. Don't undo while manipulating, and then you enter back into the default singular node state. You'll oftentimes crash your game. It'll come up with a little critical error. And I don't know if I said how to take away from manipulation mode, but you just right-click the mouse twice to get it all out, and a last time to get out of movement and select another node. But as we were saying before, we have two nodes that are too close to each other. Our first thing we want to do is envision what we want first. So what I want to happen here is a smooth curve for the trains to actually just nicely progress through here without having an abrupt, sharp turn and speed limit having to slow down. I want the speed limit to be highly maintained. So what I want to do first of all is pull this node out. Now you will see here there will be times when the nodes do twist out of form. Just line them back up again. Autosave. And let's see, you see here how now this node here will not connect. It should. It just kind of reconnected, but you don't really have to do that. You can just pull the node back out and it will form itself back out again. So we can have a little bit more space with this node, and especially this node in the back here. We want to straighten this one out as well. Now, step 2. You see how this is only one node. It's easier to do things when they're multiple nodes apart. Oh, anarchy here. Just like Cities 1, it's a lot easier when things are multi-noded, so you're easily getting things to curve without having one progression swoop, which makes this a lot more difficult than it should be. Now, what we want to do here is to slowly caress this curve to become more inward. And the reason we have multiple nodes here is so we can do this with, again, multiple nodes. I might actually want 3 nodes here, just so we can get this to curve a little bit more nicer. We want this one to come very sharply in. We can also remove this, and the nodes should remain here, and then make this thing progress in quite slowly. And now just to make this more even, we're gonna curve out these nodes just a little bit, and make this one come inward. Move the main node, hold Alt, and snap it to our other node here, and then drag this one back. Now you see here, there will be times, and there definitely will be times, where we're gonna have to move the node up and down, because you can see the track is higher than the other track. So what we want to do here is, the main node for this track is here. We want to pull this one back. Oftentimes you'll actually want to remove this node, but for example, I'm going to show you here what we're going to do. We're going to pull this node far back here. Now just be warned, be careful when doing this. I didn't say this in the last portion here, but you really want to be careful when dragging back nodes, especially when there's a wide gap between 2 different spaces here, because you will alter a node's height and rigidity. You can see here the road now has a bump because this node is too short. So what I want to do is actually, I'm gonna hold manipulation mode down with this one and pull these nodes back in a line, and make sure that they are aligned with each other. Make sure they're all flat as they should be. Now, what happens here? Oftentimes, when a node is too small on this portion here, let me actually show you in road format so you can get a better understanding. Easier to see. Oftentimes, when a node is too small on one portion of the road, your road will hip. Let's say you do this, for example. You want to pull these nodes further back. Oftentimes, your road will make this weird hip motion, and if you keep pulling it back, you will see it. Oops. Oop, don't do that. You will see it start to hip upwards in a weirdly not really good looking fashion. You will see like these little bumps in these different places, these trees. Hold up. Out of here. You will see these little bumps. To prevent that, you want to pull the node behind it further back. Right click that. Pull you back as well. Just to prevent that little hump from happening here. You can see it's a little bit more smoother. The same goes for trains and other forms of manipulation, I should say. What we want to do here, and again, you can see how this one's relatively lower down. We want to pull this road higher up to match the elevation. You could do this, or you can go to Toolbox and go to Object Height, and then select the node that you want to maintain that same height. Now you see here, this node ends here. The main node actually for here is this big node. I pulled it far back because again, if you pull it out of place, it will start to hip in a weirdly unfashioned manner here. So we want to prevent that by pulling it a little bit closer. And this node here is directly next to it, or I should say right on top of it. We could also move this one back because the real node for this road is inside the switch here. The more the node is inside, or the manipulated node is inside the switch, the longer of a curve you will have on your track, which will make it more straight. However, keep this in mind. When your node is this long, the trains themselves will practically stop within the switch here, preventing other trains from passing through. So you have to be very mindful of that. And oftentimes you will see your tracks kind of double up. To prevent that, we could just kind of slightly move it up, or just manipulate the node just a little bit, just to get it to be a little bit more straight in this portion here. And just like that, we have a little bit of a flat node. You will see that there are more portions of hipping here. And again, that is a cause of the relatively short node happening in the back. Because again, there is no node here. The node is over here, which is where it should be. But with this being here, this will prove to be a bit more easier. And we can also pull this node forward. And again, when you pull a node forward, when a node is inside of a node, I'm saying the word node a lot, but when you pull a node in front of a node, it will get a little bit more harder to use. So again, try to keep the nodes from overlapping each other. Hold Alt, bring it to the next node. Around here. And just like that, you have a nice curve that isn't too aggressive. And let's bring this one down right here so the tracks can actually line up here. Now there are different modes or different forms of using page up and page down with Move It. You can just press page up and page down. You can hold Control to go down in small increments, or hold Shift to go up in very high increments really fast. Control is more for the smaller, fine movements that you saw me using just right here. And just like that, we have a functioning switch here that is a little bit more easy to maneuver. The same thing goes for highways and many other roads. Also, fun little thing you can do here with tracks. If you are modding and you're using a quad tracked section here, for example, like so. Actually, let's do this on a flat land. I want to show you what it's like to prevent yourself from doing a little... prevent the node from being a little bit more janky. A flat land should prove to be a little bit more easier to see. So we have a one long node here. The fun thing you can do here is pull these nodes apart. And you see, again here, while pulling these nodes back, you can see that our switches are now revealed. So you can actually have very long switches between these little phases here, while you can have your trains easily cross and still maintain their high speeds here while using Move It. So that is another thing you could use. Also, make sure you pull your nodes back to prevent them from hipping as well. That way you get a nice flat surface here, and the tracks are just a high-speed rail, technically, or high-speed line you could just have here. You have a lot more function with Move It. You can rotate things at center, keep things at terrain height, object height, or rotate it in place. I don't tend to use those tools too often, except for when building a custom station, which I will show you how to do another day. We have our rotate at center toggle here. So rotate at center means you just want to rotate the building that you selected to match up with the same, in this case, road that you built. So I want it to be parallel with this one here. So when you do that, you click rotate at center, and then you click the road that you want to rotate it at, it will line itself up with it and just be perfectly aligned with the entire station length here that you see. And the same goes for any other road. Say, for example, here, I click this, I rotate at center, I click it here, it lines up with this road perfectly. So use this whenever you want to make custom stations or just buildings or just anything in this case. Move It, in my opinion, is one of the more powerful mods that you can have in this game. And there's so much you can do with it, I should say. And again, to prevent those pesky tracks from snapping to each other, just use Move It. Bring it down, bring it on both ends, and just like that you get a fifth track. Just make sure you draw out the track before you fully move everything, because again, once you move it down, you can't grab it back. It's going to be stuck within the track. So just move it, manipulate the node if you have to. In this case, I will here. I'll pull this side up and straighten you out here alongside you. For some reason, you are all one node here. So pull you back, holding Alt. The same goes for here. Pull you down, hold Alt, bring this down to this node. And just like that, we have a smooth 5-track parallel road here. Well, not smooth, but you line it up to your standards, or your own standards. But just like that, we have our own fifth track on the side here. So using Move It like this, one of my preferred methods, especially when it comes to widening out lanes, especially things like this, making a diverging diamond. You want to use Move It to just make things a bit wider, or move the roads apart. It makes the game quite easy when you do this, or it makes your game look a lot nicer when you do this as well. Especially when it came to making this Pulaski viaduct here that I have built before on this channel. Using Move It here, having a series of separate nodes pull apart, be dragged apart, which I can give you a brief rundown of how that worked actually, in case you were wanting to see. A method of how to do that was having everything set up in one node here. Let's remove this section here. So make sure all your roads are connected to one node. Say a four-way intersection. Do not build another intersection above that, no. Take your node, pull it up, pull it across, and pull it down. Now with Move It here, pull your node back, holding Alt, hold Alt again until it snaps to that node that you pulled back. Bring these two up, and just like that, you have one big node. To make it a little bit more even, pull the node back a bit farther, pull this node back a bit farther, and make sure you pull the main node that goes upward farther back as well, until the crosswalk runs at a 90-degree and the sidewalk levels out. The same goes for this side as well. Pull you back until everything matches. It just looks awkward right now because we're missing one side entirely, or one half of this road, I should say. But again, the same thing goes for down here. Pull all these nodes back. Let's see if we can level this up here by placing the other one on this portion here. Again, same rule applies. Pull them back, hold Alt, snap, and pull everything up. In this case, you can hold Alt over here. Something won't snap here, most likely, just because of how loose it is. But then, I'm gonna pull everything back the way they were before. And just like that, you have one wide node. Sure, you could use a roundabout and kind of force them on here, but I prefer to do this method just because you have more fine control over it. And that's one of the more advanced things about Move It that you can use, or that you can do. Keep in mind, it is one big node. It's best to use this as two separate roads, or two separate roads. A one-way and a two-way. Just make sure you have the traffic mod to control their lanes. And make sure they don't do anything funky here, because they will have to cross this road if you do put a traffic light alongside this corridor. And that's the whole gist of Move It. If this video helps you, let me know. The next video that I want to make is another thing that was asked, is how to make a custom station. And I will actually most likely do that next as a next tutorial video. So Again, do let me know if this helps in the future. I will be back. Move It did get more, or Move It will get more updates. It was just handed over ownership to Yin Yang instead of Cuboid. So Cuboid will no longer be working on Move It, and Yin Yang will be further prospering this mod. So there will be more additions to this mod. Hopefully it comes with a copy and paste feature like in Cities 1, but we can only hope with what Yin Yang can do. Yin Yang is responsible for a lot of mods. A lot of popular mods, I should say. Such as Anarchy being another one. So with that being said, thank you all for joining me. We'll be back with more tutorial videos in the future, but take care.